Greet YouTube. It has begun. The Zelda tier list. The Zelda tier list. Okay, this is gonna be big. This is gonna be big. So, you know me, I always like to start out strong with these tier lists. If you notice, I always start out with one of my S picks right off the bat. Well, I'm sort of spoiling it by hovering over it. No, that's not it. I'm sorry. Jesus, I'm blind. Oh, yeah, my vision is failing me. Christ, Matt. All right. Wake up, Matt. Wake the fuck up, Matt. Come on. Come on, old man. Let's go. Majora's Mask is an S-tier Zelda game. Arguably my favorite Zelda game. This Zelda game is phenomenal. There is no other Zelda game like it. Its story. It's 3-day Groundhog Day loop, I guess is the best way to describe it, as people do describe it. Its atmosphere. Its writing. Its emotions that it evokes in the player. Its visuals. There is no other Zelda game like this. As a Young Link main, ever since Melee, and since this game stars solely Young Link, bravo Young Link, not having to play second banana to your older self like in Ocarina of Time. Shout out to Young Link getting his first Zelda game all to himself. Although you can argue which Link is young in the earlier games in the 90s, whatever. How do I really describe this game very concisely? The pacing is really good. It's not paced like any other Zelda game. It actually has the least amount of dungeons probably of any Zelda game, only at 4. It has more side quests than main quests, which may seem a little weird, but like Vespi says, it has heart. Oh boy, you just get so engrossed in Termina as a world. Oh baby, it never gets old. It's just so things happen in this game that don't happen in any other Zelda game. You dance in front of chicks. Link gets nut. You get stolen from. You get read stories by a granny. You fight on the moon? This bitchy fairy who warms up to you is your sidekick? You get turned into different creatures of the world? Deku, Goron, and Zora? Whew! Whew! Truly unique. Mwah. Andrew and Cafe, of course. Andrew and Cafe. The piece de resistance of character interaction, of NPCs. Absolute phenomenal. Go now. Well, before I move on, let's discuss some of the points of contention this game has. People really get nervous about the 3-day time limit. I have to admit, even I did too as a 10-year-old kid. But once you really learn the ins and the outs, playing the Song of Time backwards, slowing time down, etc., knowing exactly what you lose when you go back in time and what you don't lose, well, I mean, of course it's manageable. It's hailed as one of the greatest Zelda games of all time. Well, the biggest thing to take away for the people who content this game, my biggest takeaway is, while the time limit may seem very un-Zelda-like, just go with it and learn its mechanic. It's a mechanic. It's not a limitation. It's not against you. It's a mechanic that you have to learn. It is an out there mechanic. Don't get me wrong, but if you learn it, then the game hella opens up, and you can do a lot of interesting stuff. You can rupee grind easily in Majora's Mask, knowing how to reset time. Let's go with a few never played. As much as I would love to talk about the CDI games and the memes, I never played them. Zelda, all 3 of those games. To be honest, no, I won't do all the never played at once. I'll leave some in suspense. But these 4 I've never played. I would hella not waste my money on Link's Crossbow Training. When did they come out? Like 2008? I fucking knew better when I was 17. Please, you're not gonna get me with a cheap Wii Zapper game, Nintendo. Fat fucking chance. I'll just replay Twilight Princess, the real Twilight Princess again. Alright, Zelda 3DS gets an A. It made some changes I'm not a fan of. It made some changes I'm not a fan of, to be honest. I actually prefer the original in this case. The 3DS version is fully portable, and it looks better, and runs better, at a slightly better frame rate at capped 30 instead of 20 to 25. But it made some changes I'm not a fan of. They took away some of the cheese you can do in the game. For example, you can get a mask halfway through the game that makes you invisible to NPCs and some enemies, and that helps with a sneaking mission that is actually quite stressful in the third sort of land area near the sea when you invade the pirates' fortress. If you knew what you were doing, you can cheese some of the game's challenge, and the game designers took that away in the remake, and that quite saddened me. Because only true super fans know how to really cheese some of the things they took away in 3DS. And even worse, they made the part where they made the reworked part where you can cheese not make sense. Why the hell is an invisible soldier sitting at the bottom of a ladder in the middle of fucking Pirates Fortress? That makes no sense whatsoever. It makes sense that he was on the roadside in Ikana Canyon in the deserted sort of cliff area. Why is he on the bottom of a ladder in a woman-only pirate fortress? Shoo! The reason why is because the designers didn't want you to cheese that section anymore with the stone mask. That's exactly why. One more point of contention I don't like about Majora's Mask is how they changed the bosses. Zycruel beat me to the punch on there, but yes, the bosses got worse. They made the bosses more mechanically intensive by using different mechanics. Some of the bosses in Majora's Mask actually aren't complicated. You can actually use your sword or some other sort of method against them. And they don't require, like, the classic need Zelda item to beat Zelda boss. But in 3D, they sort of changed around so you do, and they put these big, ugly yellow eyes for hit markers on the boss. It's gross. Why would they make a generic yellow eye be it balloons up when you down the boss? It balloons up so you can slash it with your sword to know that you're supposed to hit that. Why would they do that for artistic design? It looks so ugly. Why is a native mask wearing tribal guy with a yellow eye on his back? Why does a mechanical goat stampeding around have a yellow eye on his back? Why does a fucking brown fish have an eye? And why do fucking giant twin centipedes have a goddamn yellow eye? The goddamn yellow eye. Oh, that's right. Thanks for reminding me. I almost forgot too. They changed Zora Link. They changed his fucking animation. He no longer does the smooth swimming animation. Now he does the stupid little paddle. Now he only does the smooth animation if you're using the fucking electric shield. Damn. You did not need to change all these things, game. Why? You could have just left it. It would have been better, to be honest. And that's why I prefer the original. Is Zelda Majora's Mask 3DS a bad game? No. It still has all the charm of the original, absolutely. And even better looking, so it does have some strong points. But if I were held at gunpoint, I would choose the original. It's the one I grew up with. Zelda 1's gonna be somewhere in the B tier. I'm still deciding where. Zelda 1 is a rough, difficult 80s kick-your-balls-into-your-dick game. It's pretty much a guide-required game. But if you use a guide, you'll still have a fun time playing it. I remember getting it on Virtual Console on my Wii, and of course using a guide, I went right to the guide like a crying little baby. Not gonna lie. But if you do so, you'll still have a fun time. Zelda 1 still has a lot of charm to it. You can really see some of the beginning roots of the series. And even then, funnily enough, as the games come after, it still remains one of the most open-world Zelda games even to this date. You can do the dungeons in pretty much any order, because there's no such thing as dungeon-specific items. All you just need is a sword and bombs and arrows, essentially, when push comes to shove. I mean, sometimes you need a raft to get somewhere, or the ladder you step over water, etc., whatever. But basically, you could really chart your own course on dungeons you want to do. The only thing you can't do is Ganon's dungeon, obviously, first. But no fucking duh. Nintendo Hotline was sure cold blood. Yes, that's probably where Nintendo's billions of dollars came from. The $125 a minute they charged you on Nintendo. I don't actually know. As much as they make Nintendo Hotline jokes, I do not know how much they charge you a minute back in the day. I've never actually called it. And yes, people hella probably bought the Nintendo Power magazine that had the full guide to this game. They hella did. But like I said, with a full guide to this game, you can still have fun with this game. I would still say people never played it, give it a try. With a guide, of course. No shade thrown. You could definitely use a guide. I remember when I played this game first back in like 2007 when I got on my Wii, and I went right to my computer to get a guide. Quick research shows that the number was 900-288-0707. 150! I was close! I said 125! Go fucking figure. That was just a ballpark. That was just a pull out of my ass number. Let me follow it up with its sequel, Zelda 2. I mean, I'm sort of fucking absentmindedly spoiling where I'm going to put it, but Zelda 2 ends up somewhere in the A tier. I actually like Zelda 2 a lot. I actually like it a lot. I think they should one day do... I know Miyamoto claims this is like his most disgraceful Zelda game, whatever fucking goes through Miyamoto's head, whatever. I disagree. I think they should do another Zelda game like this one day. I love this game. The sides for changing the style, because this is the second Zelda game ever in existence. For changing the style, they tried to fix what wasn't broken, or they did want to maybe just try something new before they learned that their first style was the air quotes better one, or one they wanted to stick with. For breaking what didn't need fixing. Oh yeah, there we go. The audience loves Zelda 2. Yeah, fuck the audience. For breaking what didn't need fixing, they did a really good job on the side-scrolling. It was trying something different, and I liked it. I actually hella like it. It's funny. Most of Link's smash moves come from this game, like the down thrust, the up thrust, some of his stabs. A lot of his normal A moves come from this game, actually. Anyway, so what I love about Zelda 2, I think the battle system is actually quite good. Like you encounter wild enemies on the map as sort of like a JRPG, and you do actually level up in Zelda 2. It's a weird arbitrary sort of EXP thing where you have to level up one stat at a time. But in an order you can choose, there's actually a lot of hidden depth to Zelda 2's level up mechanic. You can choose to save the points and level up another stat. See, whenever you hit the threshold for level up, the stat screen immediately shows up, and you can choose the stat that was at that threshold. Or you can save it and level up something else. But you have to hold on to your points for a little bit. Also, funny enough, this is the first game where Link has magic. Isn't that crazy? This game is the game where Link has magic. Sure, his spells in this game don't really travel to another game. He heals himself, ups his defense, turns into a fairy, jumps high, reflects magic for one particular boss. He casts a spell named Spell to turn enemies into the weaker bots. And he casts Thunder for the second to last final boss. And of course, we have the iconic Dark Link making his debut in this game. Sure, there's an easy method to beat him when you duck near the wall and stab him in his knees. But real talk, if you actually fight him normally, he's actually one of the better bosses in the Zelda series. He is extremely unique in his AI pattern and shit. It actually feels like you're fighting your fucking self. I like the Dark Link battle in Zelda 2 more than Ocarina of Time. So there we go. Okay, A Link to the Past. For what it's worth, I like A Link to the Past. I'm gonna be 100. You know what? I'm gonna put the Game Boy and the Super Nintendo together. They're fine. So here's my take on A Link to the Past. I'm not grossly sucking this game's dick like every other Zelda fan. It's a good Zelda game. Don't get me wrong, but there are a handful of Zelda games I like more. This is the game that really cemented the formula. This is the third Zelda game ever, where they went back to using Zelda 1 style, and they really cemented the entire game series from there. So it's not my first Zelda game to go back to. I feel like other Zelda games that, of course, use the tried and true formula, just do things differently and better. So, Link's Awakening. Right off the bat, well, actually, I chose the Game Boy. Hold on, let me just get both of these up here. So, as you're gonna see my opinion right here, I slightly, very minutely prefer the OG version of Link's Awakening. I'm talking like a minuscule amount. The one thing that separates them is I think they made bosses too easy in Switch Link's Awakening. Bosses are like hell easy. You can you two-cycle most of them. They made the bosses slightly easy for the people on Switch. That is the one minuscule complaint. Otherwise, these two games are the same, and the Switch actually makes some minor improvements, such as having more shells, and of course the extra Dampe stuff, and other shit. And of course, it looks beautiful. That goes without saying. As you guys know, maybe by now from hearing my opinions, I love tropical settings in video games. That's why I love Gen 3 and Gen 7 Pokemon. I love tropical settings in video games, and this game takes place on a tropical island. Of course, you have the big twist that it's a dream and all that, and it does tug at your emotions. This is the first Zelda game that's I'm 12 and this is deep. Especially with it's all a dream sort of story point. This is the Zelda game that's I'm 12 and this is deep. Link's Awakening, I love. I love the atmosphere, the music. I still listen to the Switch soundtrack, even now that it's almost 2 years old. I listen to the soundtrack every now and then. I love Link's Awakening. I love how the boss monsters talk to you when you kill them. And they're like, "This is a dream, you idiot." Essentially. Alright, OOT. I like OOT. I like it slightly better than Link to the Past. And for once, I actually like the 3D version more. The Ocarina is the first Zelda game I've ever played. Being born in 91, I didn't experience... Get 'em. I didn't fully experience the earlier Zelda games until later in my life. Whether emulating them, getting them on Wii, etc. 3DS, etc. You know what I mean. Anyway. So, Zelda Ocarina, what's there to say about Zelda Ocarina that hasn't been said already? It's hailed as one of the greatest 3D games of all time. It's hailed as being overrated as one of the 3D games of all times. It's hailed as being I fucking hate the camera games of all time. It did set in stone the standard for all 3D titles in the future, sort of like Mario 64 did for the Mario 3D Collectathon games. Like Sunshine Galaxy and Odyssey after it. Yes, this did set the 3D standard, so of course it's a good game. Of course it's a good game. It does, of course, have its bland toast too. The story, now that I really look at the story as an adult, there are some deeper messages in it though, which puts it over A Link to the Past. How do I really make these excerpts super different from each other? Well, you know what? Let me just list my favorite songs from the game. I love Sheik's theme. Bum 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 bum. I love that theme. It's so mysterious and so eloquent. Oh God, that's such a good theme. And of course the classic ones like Hyrule Field and all that good shit. Shout out to my favorite song though on the Ocarina. I love Spirit's Requiem. That shit. That shit goes right into your soul. Oh, and I like Spirit Temple's theme too. I just like the Spirit Temple part. Can we gush about the Spirit Temple part of Ocarina? I love the fact they make you do the temple half kid, half adult. That is some good ass design. Because real talk, once you get to older Link, unless you want to do some side quests as younger Link, you only have to go back there one other time, which is getting the Lens of Truth for the well. And besides that, just about it. But Spirit Temple makes you play through half kid, half adult. I love the good. That was some good incorporating design between the two Links. Bolero Fire. Oh yeah, that's the longest Ocarina song actually, with 8 notes if I'm correct. Bonum 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 bonum. Ah, good times. So yeah, the 3D version, unlike Majora's Mask 3D, doesn't really make any drastic changes from Zelda Ocarina. The 3D version is exactly what it says on the tin, just better looking, better running Zelda Ocarina. I guess the next Zelda game's in line, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not fucking snoozing on my feet here, is Zelda Red and Blue. Zelda Red and Blue version. One day they have to remake these and make the green version they promised. I'm probably going to rate these both at the same time and talk about the differences. So, these Game Boy Zelda games are quite interesting. They used the basics of Link's Awakening and upgraded them. Because you basically have the 2 item slots which you can replace, and the Link sprites look exactly the same. They basically just took Link's Awakening and made based more Zelda games out of it. Of course, the Of course, the story isn't, of course, the same. But, like, even they share the similar items, like Rock's Feather. But in this game, you upgrade to the Rock's Cape, so they went one step further. I know about the Twin Rover fight. I've never fucking done it. Unless I play through the... maybe I can download, like, a fucking Game Boy Color save file that has them unlocked. Maybe I can just do it on the computer. I never actually thought of that. Verin, there we go. Thank you. Thank you. So, as you can tell, since I remember the name of the red version's final boss, I do like Seasons more. The question is where I'm going to put these games. I have no qualms putting them right here. So again, as you can see, Link to the Past is sort of getting stuffed out a little. Again, with me, again, I know, right? This is red versus blue, and I'm not on blue side again. I do like Seasons better than Ages. I liked the more... Seasons is a harder Zelda game, and I respect it for it. Ages more focused on puzzles, and let me tell you, Onox is a way harder final boss than Verin. Onox pushes your shit in. Onox made me feel terror as a 10-year-old kid. Onox, that dude fucks. Verin is a fine final boss, don't get me wrong, but Onox, his difficulty spike is hella. Yeah, I know. The HD version. Yeah, okay. So it's no spoilers that the HD version is better than the OG GameCube version. There's no doubt about that. I'm just thinking about where to put these. Zelda Wind Waker HD will go here. Zelda OG GameCube. I know that's a huge shift, but yeah, Zelda OG Wind Waker will go here. It'll go here. I know, right? That's a huge difference. There's a reason why I played the Wii U version for my playthrough last year, Vespi. I'm on the wrong... There we go. The HD version has hella quality of life improvements. You sail faster. Now, to be honest, even as a kid, I never found sailing too bad. I actually kind of liked it. But I cannot deny, as an old man, that the faster sailing is fucking... That's some cool music. Oh... But anyway, yes, the sailing's faster, but yes, ZY beat me to the punch there. The Triforce pieces being reworked is phenomenal. They cut down on the Tingle charts they cut down on the Triforce charts by 3. Instead of giving you 3 charts where you have to spend 398 rupees to decipher, they're just 3 pieces. You still have to go to Tingle in the HD version to decipher some charts, but I think it's 3 less in the HD version, if I remember my exact changes correctly. Also, the game just looks beautiful. Sure, they may have added a little too much bloom, but hot damn, Wind Waker looks fucking good as an HD game. That's why I was waiting for another certain game to become HD, so I can nut to it. But yeah, that is a big difference. Listen, it's hard because the reason maybe before Wind Waker HD came out, I would put this a little higher, but it's hard. It's hard to go back to old GameCube version when this version is just superior in every way. You know what's even better? This version changes nothing about the GameCube version. It just makes things better. I mean, when I say changes nothing, I mean it just makes things better. It doesn't change something for the worse in some aspects. So yeah, this is literally a better version in every sense of the way. So, it being so good knocks this down to be... I know it's kind of shocking to see Toon Link's game, who I mained in Smash, Brawl, and 4, because Young Link was taken out, or Toon Link just took over Young Link's position until they brought him back for both. But yeah, it's just hard to go back to the GameCube one. There's no reason to! Everyone should just get a Wii U. Arguably, it is an extremely underrated system, now that I'm really putting in my perspective. Freaking, like, 8+ years later. There's no Tingle Tuner in the HD version. That is true. Although, to be fair, I was one of the 20 people to own the Game Boy Advance GameCube connector cable. I mostly used it for Metroid, because you can get the original Metroid NES on Metroid Prime as a ROM to unlock. That was pretty dope back in the day, especially since in 2002, I didn't know what emulators and ROMs were. So... to officially play Metroid 1 was pretty dope back in the day. That's why I had the GameCube Game Boy Advance connector cable. And I did use it for Tingle once. But it was clunky and hard to use. You can have your little brother play as Tingle to drop bombs and shit on the enemies if you call him. But guess what? I'm the younger brother in my family. I don't have a younger sibling. I have an older sister. But she doesn't play Zelda with me. She's 9 years older than me. And she's a normie, so. But anyway, yeah, completely better version. Alright, so Four Swords. Are you ready for our first C game? I did not like Four Swords. I think Four Swords was a wasted experiment. As, again, at the time, Zelda Wind Waker was an A-tier game. After experiencing these good-ass Zelda, so like, again, back in like 2004. After experiencing these good-ass Zelda games, they make this weird experiment where you play as 4 Links. I was not a fan of this game. I said the same thing in my GameCube tier list. I was not a fan of this game. I don't think it's like garbage or trash, but it definitely deserves its C tier, which I'm placing it at out of this fine list. I wasn't a fan. I thought it was a waste of time. I'm like, if I want to play, I'm not gonna bring. I mean, I know you can do it by yourself, but I'm not gonna. Well, one, I feel awkward doing it by myself, but I'm not gonna bring, because if I'm by myself and want to play a Zelda game, I'll just play the better ones. I'm not gonna bring my 4 friends over to play Zelda with me. If my 4 friends are coming over and I have a GameCube, we're just playing Smash Melee. This game is on. I hate to be rude towards it. This game is pointless. Maybe the only thing I can really defend it is maybe it was like really ahead of its time. With the Switch out nowadays and having local co-op through wireless local co-op, I could see this hella being good. I can see this being really good, and maybe even make it online, like Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. Although don't use the 2006 Wii friend code system that Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles HD did. That being said, me and my friends still had a good time with Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles HD. But I can see this game really working well for the Switch is what I'm trying to say. But back on the GameCube, childhood me found it pointless. If I'm going to play a Zelda game by myself, I'm just going to play one of the good ones. And if my friends are coming over, we're playing Melee. All right, now we're really moving on to the bread and butter. Let's all right, you know what? I'm going to really get the rest of these. I'm going to get some of these out of the way. So here's a list of games I've never played. Let's get back to the never played. I've never played Triforce Heroes. I've heard mixed to not great things about it. And it was once $5 at 5 and below, which concerns me. But to be fair, I've never played it. And I still question myself about this game, but I have not played Hyrule Warriors. I haven't played Hyrule Warriors. And I want to get around to it, but I haven't played Age of Calamity yet either. I really did want to play Age of Calamity, possibly before this tier list, but it's not a big deal. I've not played Age of Calamity yet. I know it's been out for 7 months now, but I haven't played it. And I've not played Kings of Hyrule either. I own these 2 games, but they're unfortunately in the backlog. They're unfortunately in the dreaded backlog. To be honest, towards the end of this list, I may break up what I do in exact order, but we'll move on for now. Minish Cap. Minish Cap gets top of C. I'm not a super fan of Minish Cap. It's a real Zelda game, if I'm be so rude towards Zelda 4 Swords Adventures, but I don't really have like super duper fun replaying it. Oh, and the audience is unfortunately agreeing with me with their claps. Like it's lower than the OG Zelda, because the OG Zelda you can beat in like one sitting with a guide. It's quick and easy pace. Sure, it's, again, like I said, it's ball busting and difficult mode. I need a guide, but Minish Cap it's not bland. I wouldn't describe bland, but Minish Cap is. Oh, you know what sucks about Minish Cap? The fucking metal combining. Oh, now I fucking remember why now I know why Minish Cap is here. The fucking metal combining mechanic. Oh, fuck me. It just hit me like a ton of bricks. Fuck that mechanic. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck me. It just, it's like a flood of memories just came back to me. Fuck the medals. This game hella deserves C+. Oh, when it boils down to its most basic form, it's an okay Zelda game. The shrinking mechanic is kind of interesting, although very limited by the hardware. You can tell what you're supposed to shrink into because there's a little fucking door-shaped hole everywhere. But it's still slightly cool. It's still slightly cool. And they use it for a couple boss battles, really cool. But fuck the medals. I completely remember why I don't enjoy playing this game. I haven't played this game in like 10 plus years, and I completely remember why. Fuck the medals. Kinstones, there we go. I even forgot their fucking name. I bleached the name from my mind for 10 years. Yeah, Kinstones, thank you. I totally forgot their name. Fuck those things. It's so arduous. It's so arduous. You think you found the other half, and then you look in disappointment, and then you're sad and flaccid. Yeah, Minish Cap hella belongs here. We're moving on to a big Zelda game. We're moving on to Twilight Princess. This is going to be huge. Fuck me, how do I go about describing Twilight Princess? Okay. Twilight Princess gets top of B tier. It's not easy for me to come to this conclusion, but hear me out. I loved this game when I was a teenager, don't get me wrong. I played the shit out of it. This is actually probably one of my most replayed Zelda games. But as I was replaying it, there's a huge issue that sticks out to me in this game. Edgy teenager, yeah. This game has one growth of a flaw on it. Well, I mean, you can mention a few others, but this game has one growth of a flaw on it. The beginning is very badly paced. Again, ZY and I fire on both cylinders. I agree. Well, one, the intro is too long. I don't like the first 40% of the game, to be honest. You're right, the intro is way too long before the first dungeon, and I do not like collecting the Tears of Light. I know it's story important to dispel Twilight, but man, the Tears of Light suck. They slightly make it better in the HD version by removing 3. Instead of 15, you have to collect 12 in each segment. But man, what a slow game for the first 3 dungeons. It is a snail's pace. Oh my god. So yeah, even Vespi agrees. Okay, so dope. So I'm not completely crazy. People love Twilight Princess. I know they do. Because Wind Waker got a bunch of heat back in the day, and then people look forward to Twilight Princess having the more adult art style and this and that. And people still talk about it by being the most coolest Link and all that, etc. Those are fine opinions, I respect them. But I don't share them, to be honest, as you can clearly see. Man, the slow... Now, I love the second half of this game. The second half of this game is actually really fucking good. The second half of this game is easily A-tier material. The second half of this game is great. I love... Oh, Twilight Princess definitely has one of my favorite dungeons in this series, the City in the Sky. Spoiler alert, I like sky-based regions too, as much as I like tropical regions. So yeah, City in the Sky is one of my favorite dungeons in the entire series. I love it. I love the boss battle with Argarok at the top, where you have to double claw shot around him in midair and then jump on his fucking back and stab him. That's good shit. The rest of the second half of the game is also fine. The Arbiter Grounds, the Snowhead Mansion. You get to go to the Temple of Time itself. Actually, real talk, I'm gonna start the praise a little earlier. After Zant ambushes you after the third dungeon and fucks up Midna and turns you into Permanent Wolf, that is when the game propels itself into absolute greatness. That is good shit. The game hella picks up from there and propels itself phenomenally. I wish I just had repeating save points starting from that point in the game, because, like I said, the previous flaw that brings it down to B+ is the beginning of the game is a absolute drag. The most drag in the entire series. Oh yeah, the one-off weapons? You mean the slingshot where you use once in the entire game to get rid of the spiders on the ladder to your house and then never use it again? Because you don't have to use the slingshot afterward in the first dungeon, and you get the bow and arrow in the second dungeon, so you never use it again? You're talking about that one-use item? That slingshot? Yes, the shootout in Old Kakariko with the really good music. Hidden Village. Yeah, Hidden Village. I fucking love that song. That's also a phenomenal song. I fucking jam out that every now and then, yes. That's good. Phantom Hourglass is a C, and not a C plus like Seabass. It is a C. Phantom Hourglass has a lot of flaws. For a follow-up to Wind Waker, I was half hard, half flaccid. I guess you could say I was half chubbed, but still kind of reeling towards flaccid. This game is a direct sequel to Wind Waker, and I'm like, yes, direct. I am so flaccid. I'm like, yes, direct sequel. We haven't had a direct sequel in a while. Yes, and then I play it, and while they do acknowledge Wind Waker's story beats and Tetris in the beginning of Phantom Hourglass for a bit, they don't really do much regarding it's a sequel. They don't even make that many improvements. Sure, you use a steamliner in Phantom Hourglass, so it's arguably better than sailing. But, of course, the game being on DS means it's a smaller game. They couldn't compact that big of a Zelda game on it. And, of course, we have to talk about returning to the Ocean Temple at the end of every other temple. I mean, I'm gonna, this isn't going to be cohesive, but I'm going to drag on the laundry list. Yeah. Direct sequel and somehow you lose all your hearts. You know, it's funny you mention that because it can canonically make sense in Majora's Mask. Because Majora's Mask starts out in the childhood arc after you go back in time and warn people about Ganon. So he's executed. That does make a little more sense, but yeah, direct sequel, you're right, yeah, of course. I mean, they can't show you how broken, but yeah, smug. Having to repeat the temple every time was a mess. And they did fix that with Spirit Tracks, which I'm going to get to in just a bit. But yeah, anyway, as far as this, I wanted more out of a sequel. They touted this as a sequel to Wind Waker. And while they're technically correct, it's not a substantial sequel to Wind Waker. When I want a sequel to a game, I want a fucking sequel to a game. Yeah. Alright, so, Spirit Tracks. I like Spirit Tracks. I think it actually gets the low B treatment. Now, you would think that Link and Trains would strangely not mix together. I remember when they announced this, it was a little off-putting too. But it turned out to be a pretty good game. One weakness I could say, though, about Spirit Tracks over Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks kind of has a weaker overworld. Because you're always stuck on the train line. Of course, you can steer yourself in the proper direction, but you're always just stuck on the train line. At least Phantom Hourglass had you like free sailing. Sure, there wasn't a super lot to discover. There was like half as many islands in Phantom Hourglass as there was Wind Waker. But Spirit Tracks is sort of stuck on the track. I mean, no fucking shit. That's the name of the game. But that being said, though, Spirit Tracks makes, as we just said, a bunch of improvements. It is paced a lot better. They fixed the stupid returning tempo bullshit. And overall, it's a more unique dynamic. I forgot to mention, you see the guy on the front of Phantom Hourglass. I fucking forget his name, like Alfonso or something. There's one minor twist with him where you have to fight him in Phantom Hourglass, but he's a very lackluster sidekick. In Spirit Tracks, you get fucking... Oh, Linebeck! No, Alfonso is the guy from Spirit Tracks. Fuck, I mixed him up. My bad. His game began with A. No, Linebeck is the guy from fucking Phantom Hourglass. That's right. And I was gonna move on to your point. Yeah. Having Zelda as a companion in Spirit Tracks was a good mechanic. That was a hella good mechanic. Also, this is arguably one of the best written Zeldas to date. She's quite sassy. She's quite sassy and lively. I like this Zelda in Spirit Tracks. So the writing's better than Phantom Hourglass. So I'm gonna go a little out of order now. I'm gonna go right up to Link Between Worlds. You know what? I'm gonna put Link Between. Twilight Princess is moving down just because I think I have enough in A tier. I think Link Between Worlds is B+. No, I like Link Between Worlds. If for a new age Zelda game, it did some interesting things, like that item renting mechanic to make you like choose your own path and do dungeons out of order was on the interesting side. This was on the interesting side. And of course we have the new mechanic in the game, the 2D wall, the Super Paper Mario 2D wall travel mechanic, which was, it's cool, but it's mostly for. Actually, no. There's that one boss where you have to attach to his shield and get behind him. I was gonna say it's a slightly underutilized, just gimmicky mechanic, but no. There's that one boss where you have to get on his like shield and like get behind him. They use that one mechanic pretty damn good. Now, you're right. It is one of the better direct sequels to a Zelda game. I was just about to mention that. Now, but now again, don't be harsh, don't be rough on me. The only reason this isn't higher is because, as you know, I'm not like super duper in love with the OG Link to the Past. I think they're pretty good Zelda games. Like these Zelda games and above, I nut over. Like these right here. These are the pretty good Zelda games. So Link to the Past, of course, Link Between Worlds definitely falls under. It's hella good. Don't get me wrong. But from my own opinion, I was like, oh, just a decent fan of the original one. I know people love this game. Some people claim this to be the best Zelda game to date also. I mean, they say that about a lot of Zelda games, but the Zelda fan base is huge, so of course I've heard that. You know what? I've only played through this game once. I should really give it a replay. I've only played it through once, because this game's almost 8 years old. It came out at the end of 2013, if I remember correctly. I should really give this game a second replay. I have to admit, I'm sort of rusty on my knowledge, because I only played it once when it first came out. I should find the time to do so again. That boss was in Thief Town. Oh yeah, the shield one I was talking about, right? Yeah. Oh, I think a Link Between Worlds far surpasses a Link to the Past. Oh, you do? Huh. Oh, they're playing Sheik's theme. I just hear it. Dum bum 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 bum. Anyway, you know, maybe I could hold that opinion. I as of right now, my memory's telling me, in my case, it's not. But I just admitted to not playing it in like 7+ years, so I should, now that I'm really discussing it, maybe I should give this game another replay in honor of the Zelda hype. I can't do it on stream because I don't have 3DS capture, but I should give it another replay. Because, you know, I'm looking over at my 3DS section over on my cabinet. I was going to give Metroid Samus Returns another replay also, in honor of the Metroid 5 hype. I should, for right now, my opinion stands, I keep it at B+, but maybe if I play both of these games again, maybe I will find this one better. Breath of the Wild is going to end up right here in DT. Yeah, I'm kidding. Zelda Breath of the Wild is going to end up right here near the top. It slowly loses out to Link's Awakening and Majora's Mask. For me. Oh, now the sad music's coming on. Oh, so you think it's a low A for you? Interesting. How do I go about describing this? I think, well, it being the air quotes newest Zelda game, boy, it's really good at being open world. It's really good at being open world. You can beat the game in 30 minutes if you know what you're doing. Have I ever done that? No. I want to do that one day. That looks hella cool, even though it's hella hard. I know it's hard to beat Ganon with 3 hearts. And full-powered Ganon at 3 hearts. But there's no other Zelda game you can do that in. Beat it in legitly without fucking like wall glitches like in Link's Awakening. You can beat it legitimately within like 30 to an hour. It really did bring back open world hella good. Now, depending on its style and substance, I've heard all the opinions throughout the entire board. It doesn't feel like Zelda. No, but it's hella good. It's open world. The dungeons are whack, which I do agree with that opinion. The dungeons need to be hella better in Breath of the Wild 2. The four divine beasts, I just call them mechanical dungeons. The 4 divine beasts being mechanical, open, unopen were... Some of it was okay, because again, even the dungeons were open. If you have like Rivali's Gale, or you just do your jumping and your gliding right, you can get to different parts of the dungeon any way you want. You can play this Zelda game any way you want. That's its biggest strength. Of course, no duh, people have mentioned the open worldness of this game many times. But the Zelda fanbase has also told me that they also want a little more on-rails experience also. You don't have Zelda items like the usual links from other Zelda games. You just have the 5 Sheikah Slate abilities. So yeah, it goes back and forth. It just depending on what your taste is. Some people think it's their top 10 best game of all time. Some people think it's just a decent low A. A pretty good low A. As you can see, between you two, and even my brain, it just goes back and forth. Don't get me wrong, it's only there because there's so many other A title games I would put higher. But they wouldn't be that far off point-wise. That's right. Because Zelda games are all, like, really tightly good. They're all together. Look, I have no D's on my list. They're hella good. Oh, I'm sorry, Skyward Sword is a D. So, I'll get to that. Just leave it there to troll real fast. Breath of the Wild, yes. So yes, it goes back and forth depending on what you look for in a Zelda game. As a huge Zelda fan, I did like the aspects of both sides of what they were coming from. Yeah, the dungeon could be better. Yeah, I do want the classic Zelda items back. But man, is it so open, you can do whatever you want anytime you want. Like, damn. Damn. I could be getting up to 2 Divine Beasts. I can one day try and beat them in the 30 minutes to an hour, like I said. I could just do another full playthrough if I want of getting all 4 Divine Beasts and doing as many shrines as I want. The shrines were hella interesting puzzles, because you always have well, for the most part, you always have the ability to solve one, as soon as you enter it. There's no required item because you have the 5 items. The only shrines that suck are the ones that make you look at the sun and like get like the coordinates and shit. Fuck those shrines. I hate entering a shrine. Those shrines can go the fuck away in Breath of the Wild 2. I hate entering those shrines where it says, oh, you have to look at coordinates of sun here to get the code to enter here. I'm like, oh, fuck off. Fuck off. Just give me a fucking puzzle I can solve right away. I think one of the other big points of contention with this game is the weapon durability. People hate the weapon durability, like really hate it. Like it killed like their firstborn child. A friend of mine, Matt 5000, who's a friend of the stream, hates the weapon durability. He wants that shit gone in Breath of the Wild 2. I thought it was okay. Sure, it's a little anxiety-inducing. Again, I'm guessing. Again, I'm not insulting people, but I'm guessing Zelda fans just don't like a little anxiety in their games. I understand why anxiety is a bad feeling to feel, but again, with people who hate the 3-day time limit, people hate the fucking weapon durability too. I didn't think it was bad. You get so much weapons to fucking you could feed a starving small country with the amount of weapons you get. I was never short on weapons. Sure, the weapons were of varying power, and sometimes I would enter a major test of strength with not the greatest weapons, and I'd be like, Hannibal Buress. This sucks, man. Overall, I'm giving Breath of the Wild a nearly high A. It only gets beaten out by 2 Zelda games. So I guess Breath of the Wild is my. I guess because these are like mostly the same, essentially. I guess Breath of the Wild, and these 2. I guess Breath of the Wild is my 3rd favorite Zelda game, and I never really realized it? Interesting. Breath of the Wild is my 3rd favorite Zelda game, and now that I'm going through the list, I never realized it. Or it would be 3rd favorite Zelda game if Skyward Sword wasn't my 2nd favorite Zelda game. Moving on to the final game of the night. Skyward Sword gets an S tier. This is spicy, isn't it? Arguably the most contested main actual real Zelda game in the series. Skyward Sword. Skyward Sword has been under contention for nearly 10 years. It'll be 10 years in November since this game graced the Zelda sphere. I love Skyward Sword. I love Skyward Sword to death. I loved it ever since it first birthed in November of 2011. I still have the golden Wii remote. Hold on, let me see if it's behind me as we. Yep, I found it. It's still behind me in my controller basket as we speak. I was waiting for this very time for it to get its HD re-release, and I'm so happy it's 60 frames. I'm so happy it's 60 frames. Again. I'm loving the improvements of Skyward Sword HD. Admittingly, I haven't turned the game on in front of my face because I'm waiting to play through it in November on stream. But I understand what it's improving. It is 60 frames. It looks beautiful. It finally. And no matter how many stinky Nintendo fans fight against it, saying it's not worth 60, feck him. This is my dream come true. The Zelda game that grew to my heart back in 2011. Let me explain why this Zelda game is so close to me. So, Skyward Sword. Link is in the Knight Academy. It's essentially a college, if you will. It has a big campus. There's a gym where you go to bamboo train and sword train. Well, there's two gyms. You go there to learn the sword, and there's a campus gym where and there's also the bamboo training facility. You can think of that as like the campus college gym. Link is a college student in this game is what I'm trying to say. There's an arcade where you go to that small sky island with the rotating clown wheel to play the arcade game. Link is a college student in this game. And the reason why that hits so close to my heart is I was a college student when this game came out. So I always related to this Link the most out of all other Links in the entire series. I'm like, oh, this Link's a college student just like I am. Me as a young, chipper 20-year-old. I was 20 at the time. So yeah. I'm like, oh, I relate to this Link immediately. So moving on with more points about the game. Yes, Fi is also a big contention point in the entire game. People do not like her. People think she's annoying. I thought she's okay. She's just not... Oh, you know, I never really mentioned Midna in Twilight Princess. Now that I think about it, I never really mentioned Midna. Let me quickly go over that. I think Midna's okay. I sort of like her snark a little, but I'm not like super in love with her like the rest of the fan base is. I think it's because I exude top energy like Midna. If you like Midna, this is an insult, but if you like Midna, you're most likely a bottom. And since I'm a top, me and Midna both exude top energy. So while we understand each other's viewpoints, we don't really like super connect. You're right, I never really mentioned Navi or the King of Red Lions either. They're okay. I'm not gonna go super deep into them. So, I mean, I like Midna for what it's worth, because Midna's the most, like, loved sidekick in the series. There's no doubt about that. She does. Midna does have pretty good character development. But, so back to Fi. I always liked Fi. Fi is just different. Fi is just a computer. People take Fi way too seriously. Sure, maybe she is a step down. If you really were to put it, if you really were to compare actual composition between two partners, yeah, Fi is a step down. Fi is a step down compared to Midna because she's more robotic. But that's sort of her story, because she sort of learns to calculate human emotions by the end of the story. When you're putting the spoiler alert, when you're putting the Master Sword away in Skyward Sword, and she mentions she's going to miss you, or she's feeling an emotion such as separation. Also, Midna's Lament, I challenge you with Fi's piano theme that plays during the scene where she mentions her calculating emotions about missing you. Maybe Fi did hold your hand a little too much in the original. I just never fucking mind. I was just having fun playing around with the fucking Joy-Con as the Joy-Con. Whoa, I'm sorry. Wii Motion Plus as the sword. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. Now I can't wait to play with the Joy-Cons as the sword. And yes, people love the defrosting ice cream trope. That's why they fucking love Midna. I understand. I completely understand. And hey, guess what opinion I shared earlier? This should have been a little. This was foreshadowing. Didn't I say earlier I love like sky-based aesthetics? There we go. Didn't I say earlier I love sky-based aesthetics? That was the foreshadowing hint. I hate the opinion that people say... Well, no, I agree with the opinion that Skyward Sword is just Wind Waker in the sky. That's true. That's hella true. I hate it when people say that there is nothing to do in the sky. That is hella not true. Skyward Sword arguably has the most mini-games out of any Zelda game, because you have the bamboo, you have the arcade... You do stuff at the bar. There's harp playing at the bar. Again, college bar. Haha, college student. That's what. Again, if people just change their angle of thought that Link's a cool college student in Skyward Sword, I swear the game becomes even better. It's just a cool sort of roundabout way of thinking of Link. He's a college student. Come on. Remember his getting into bed animation where he lays down his shield and then just jumps right back into bed? He's a fucking college student. He's lazing his balls up. The final dungeon in Skyward Sword is amazing. Yes! Oh, man. The final dungeon in Skyward Sword. That fucking... So you know what that dungeon is? That's the fucking number, like, sliding number puzzle you'd have a kid where there's one space missing. And you had to slide the numbers in the correct order so it counts up correctly. I fucking hated those as a kid. I sucked dick at them. My sister was good at them. I was not. So Skyward Sword made me conquer my fear of those games. You'd get like the little like pink plastic ones, like in a sort of like a, not like a Cracker Jack toy, but you know, something of similar sort. I sucked dick at those. So Skyward Sword made me conquer my fear of those. I can't believe it. And then we oh, and man, I know this is spoilers, but whatever. A 10-year-old game. Man, the final battle again. Going back to the gameplay, I really like the swordplay in Skyward Sword. I think the swordplay is fantastic in Skyward Sword. I can't wait to do it all over again in 60 frames HD. I love it to death. Especially the final battle against Demise, where you can really show off how well you can control the sword. Because, for what it's worth, Demise is either hard or easy depending on how good you are with the sword. If you're good with the sword and shield bashes, he is easy. But if you don't, I've seen Demise fuck up people before. Both people streaming the game and friends of mine, etc. I've seen Demise fuck up. I've seen the final Demise fight fuck up people. They couldn't get down the timing or the Skyward strikes proper in the second phase. But if you're good with the sword, you fucking schmoove on them, and it's delicious. The game rewards you for getting good at the controls, and that's the best kind of game. So yes. Oh, and we can't finish off talking about Skyward Sword without Groose. Honestly, the fans love Groose to death, and so do I. Groose is a fantastic character. He starts out as the fucking Biff to Marty McFly. For him and Link. But he and Link solve their differences, and he eventually becomes a helpful, normal side character to Link. He's helpful. He's legitimately helpful. He helps during Toon prison fights. He pulls his weight as a normal side NPC in the game. That is rare for Zelda, considering all these motherfuckers are good for is just dying half the time when Ganon swoops the land. That is my wrap-up of Skyward Sword. It's a beautiful game that I'm so happy gets its second chance now. And you know what's even better? According to the analytics on the Nintendo New York line at the store, the Skyward Sword line out in New York was the longest line since Sword and Shield. Pokemon Sword and Shield. That warms my heart. That means this game is flying high, as it should, as it deserves to 10 years ago. This game is finally flying high, and I couldn't be more happy for it. That's all there is. To the beautiful Wind Waker theme, I am signing off.